The joke that went too far. It started as a joke. At least, that's what they told me. Let's see how she finds her way home, Dad said, half laughing as he slammed the car door and peeled off, tires spitting gravel. Mum waved from the passenger seat, her smile tense, like she didn't fully agree but didn't care enough to argue. They left me standing there, 12 years old, clutching a dead phone and a half-melted chocolate bar, staring up at the rusted sign above the platform that read, Ellaby Station. I'd never heard of it. The tracks stretched in either direction into forest so dense it looked black beneath the early evening sky. The platform was cracked, overgrown, and completely deserted. No booths, no working lights, just an old wooden bench, a trash bin full of crumpled fast food wrappers, and a shattered vending machine oozing melted candy. It didn't even look like it belonged in this century. At first, I thought it was funny, too. A weird test, maybe. Something they'd laugh about later. She actually waited an hour. Can you believe it? I gave it 20 minutes. No calls, no texts. My phone wouldn't even power on. I tried walking, but there were no road signs, no cell signal, and every path leading off the platform vanished into brambles. I turned back and waited. The sun dipped lower. That was when I noticed the first odd thing. There was a man sitting on the bench. I swear he wasn't there before. He was dressed in a black suit, old-fashioned, like 1950s funeral wear. Thin frame, neatly combed hair, pale hands folded over a briefcase on his lap. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the tracks, as still as a mannequin. "Hi," I said, trying not to sound nervous. "Do you know when the next train is?" He didn't answer. I stepped closer. "Sir?" Still nothing. His skin had a strange tone to it, grayish, like stone. I was about to reach out when he turned his head slightly. Not all the way. Just a twitch, like a glitch in a video. His eyes met mine. They were black. Not dark brown. Not shadowed. Black, like ink. "You shouldn't be here," he said softly. "Not alive." I stumbled back, heart thundering. What did you say?" But he didn't repeat it. Just turned his head slowly back to the tracks. The air shifted, like a cold wind through the trees. I turned around, and the forest suddenly looked deeper. The sky, darker. And behind me, on the station wall, something new had appeared. A clock. Old, brass-rimmed, ticking loudly. Except the hands were moving backwards. I don't know why that scared me more than the man. I wanted to leave. But where? No roads. No houses. No lights. And then, from far down the track, I heard it. A whistle. High-pitched. Hollow. A train. Relief washed over me. I turned to the man. "Are you getting on?" He didn't respond. I waited at the edge of the platform, watching as the light emerged through the trees. But something was wrong. The headlamp was dim, flickering. The train looked rotted. The metal was rusted, paint peeled in long flakes. The windows were blacked out. It screeched to a stop. The doors opened. No one inside. No conductor. No passengers. Only rows of red velvet seats, worn and stained. And yet, something about it pulled at me. Like it was waiting. Like it had come for me. Behind me, the man stood. "Don't board it," he said quietly, "unless you want to leave the living behind." I backed away. The doors hissed. The whistle blew again. And then I heard it. A whisper. From inside the train. "Emily, come home." My name. Spoken in my mother's voice. But she wasn't here. No one was. I turned to the man, but he was gone. Just vanished. I turned back to the train. One of the seats now had a stuffed rabbit sitting on it. My rabbit. The one I lost when I was 5. It smiled at me. The doors started to close. And I stepped forward. I don't know why. The platform fell away behind me as the train pulled into the woods. And deep in the shadows, something shifted. Something that had been waiting a long, long time. The train rocked as it sped forward, a low groaning sound echoing through the cabin as if the tracks themselves were protesting every inch. The windows were completely black, not just darkened. It was like looking into ink. I tried peering outside, but there was nothing. No reflection. No flicker. Just void. I walked cautiously down the aisle. My footsteps made no sound. The walls seemed closer than they should have been. Like they were breathing. Stretching. I passed more seats. All empty. Except one. Another figure sat still as stone in the third row, facing forward. An old woman with white hair braided down her back. Her hands were folded in her lap, but they trembled slightly. "Hello," I whispered. She didn't move. I leaned closer, and she turned to me so slowly it hurt to watch. "You shouldn't have stepped on," she said, her voice a dry rasp. "The train only goes one way." "Where does it go?" "Where you're meant to end up." I swallowed. "I want to go home." The woman smiled sadly. "No one gets off until the train decides." Before I could reply, something banged against the outside of the train. Hard. A scraping sound, like fingernails dragging along metal. I jumped. The woman didn't flinch. "Ignore them," she whispered. "They never made it on board. They still want to." The lights flickered overhead. The train groaned again, louder this time, and the velvet on the seats shifted like something moved underneath. I turned to run back to my seat, but the aisle stretched longer than before. My seat was gone. In its place, the man in the black suit now Saturday. He smiled at me. "You're doing well, Emily. Not many make it this far without screaming." I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. "You see," he continued, "this isn't just a journey. It's a sorting. The station is the test. The train is the truth." He tapped his briefcase. "And you're part of the paperwork now." Suddenly, the train jolted. The windows flashed white, for just a moment, and I saw things outside. Faces, pressed against the glass. Some screaming, some smiling, all of them staring straight at me. The man stood and walked past me. "When the train stops," he said, "you'll have to choose which version of you walks out. Be careful. One of them isn't you." Then he vanished between two cars. I turned to follow him, but the next carriage was sealed by a heavy iron door. Scratched into the metal, in fresh marks, was a message. "Don't open for the girl in the red coat. She isn't alone." I blinked. My hands began to shake. Because I was wearing a red coat. And I was very much alone. Or so I thought. Until the voice behind me said, "Why do you think we picked you, Emily?" My breath caught in my throat. I spun around quickly. There was no one behind me. Just rows of velvet seats stretching endlessly, flickering overhead lights, and the distant groan of wheels on warped steel. But I heard the voice. Clear. Low. Familiar. "Why do you think we picked you, Emily?" My name echoed in the silence like a cracked bell. I backed up slowly, bumping into a pole. The cabin felt smaller now. The air, colder. The windows pulsed a sickly gray with each flash of passing nothingness. I wasn't imagining things. Something was on board with me. I stumbled forward toward the next compartment door, the one scratched with the warning, "Don't open for the girl in the red coat. She isn't alone." I froze. Was that message for me? Or about something pretending to be me? I looked down at my coat. Still red. Still mine. Or was it? A knock interrupted my thoughts. It came from the window. I turned slowly, and saw myself staring in. Not a reflection. Not a trick of light. It was me. Face pale. Hair matted. Mouth stretched into a too wide smile. Her hand pressed to the glass. Her fingers looked wrong. Too long. Jointed too many times. Like the bones had been rearranged for grasping things that squirm. I screamed. She mimicked it a second later, perfectly, like a recording played back out of sync. Then she mouthed something. "Let me in." The train lurched again. I fell to my knees. When I looked back at the window, she was gone. But something scratched from outside, tracing circles. She wasn't trying to get in. She was trapping me inside. I pushed up, heart hammering, and ran down the aisle. Door after door. Carriage after carriage. Every window I passed reflected me, smiling differently. One with her eyes sewn shut. One missing her lower jaw. One holding the stuffed rabbit and stroking it lovingly. All watching. All waiting. The final door at the end was slightly ajar. Beyond it was a room made entirely of mirrors. Not glass. Reflections. Each one showed a different version of me. Happy Emily. Angry Emily. Dead Emily. The Emily that never got on the train. And in the center of it all stood the man in the black suit. Briefcase open. Empty now. He looked up at me. Time to choose, he said. Which one are you? I shook my head. I'm me. I'm the real one. Prove it. The mirrors began to move. Each version of me stepped forward. They mimicked me perfectly. My voice. My movements. Even the fear in my eyes. If you choose wrong, the man said, we let the others out. My mind raced. One of them held the rabbit wrong. Another blinked too fast. But only one looked at me not with fear, but with pity. I stepped toward her. She didn't smile. She didn't flinch. She nodded. I reached out and touched the mirror. The rest screamed. The glass shattered. The man closed the briefcase. Very good, Emily, he said. Behind me, the train came to a halt. The doors opened. And a voice, my mother's again, called out. Come home, sweetheart. We've missed you. But this time, it didn't sound quite right. I stood frozen at the threshold of the shattered mirror room. The air around me pulsed like a heartbeat. The man in the black suit nodded once and vanished into smoke. The door behind me hissed open. I stepped out, onto a new train car. This one was nothing like the others. No seats. No windows. Just dim, flickering bulbs hanging from wires that swayed even though the train wasn't moving. Except, it was. Slowly. Beneath my feet, the vibrations were wrong. The rhythm uneven. Like we were riding over bones instead of rails. At the end of the car was a staircase. It spiraled downward, impossibly long for the size of the train. I hesitated, then descended. Each step creaked beneath my weight. The deeper I went, the colder it became. Until I saw it. The door. Old, wooden, carved with symbols I didn't recognize. One pulsed faintly with red light, like a heartbeat. I reached out. My hand trembled. And then, it opened on its own. Beyond was a field of fog. Endless. Thick as soup. Gray as ash. And in the middle stood a house. My house. Exactly as I remembered it from when I was 7. The one we moved from after the fire. The one I had nightmares about. I stepped forward. The fog didn't part. It watched. Yes, watched. I could feel the eyes on me. Not people. Not animals. Memories. Regrets. The things that followed people when they left their innocence behind. As I approached the porch, the door opened. Mum stood there, but her eyes were too wide. Her smile, too frozen. Come in, sweetheart. You must be so tired. I didn't move. Something behind her shifted. A shadow with legs too long and arms that ended in points. It twisted like smoke, hugging her back. This isn't real, I whispered. She cocked her head. Of course it is. This is home. My fingers curled. I looked down. The stuffed rabbit was in my hands again. It blinked. I screamed and threw it. It hit the porch with a wet thud and began to crawl. The voice inside the house changed. Deeper. Guttural. Come inside, Emily. You belong to us now. I turned and ran. The train waited where I'd left it, half buried in the mist. The doors were closing. I dove inside just in time. The fog shrieked. Yes, shrieked. Like it was furious it had let me go. As the train pulled away, the mirrors above the door flashed. They showed them. My parents. Only, not as they are now. As they were. Standing at the edge of Ellaby station. Watching me. And whispering something I couldn't hear. Over. And over. until one final word burned across the glass. Remember. The train came to a sudden halt, not with the usual groan of brakes, but a quiet exhale, as if the train itself was relieved. I stood, heart thudding. The windows had turned pitch black, reflecting only me. I approached the door. It slid open with a hiss. What lay outside wasn't the Ellaby station I remembered. It was older, cracked, overgrown with vines, and wrapped in a fog so thick it moved like breathing smoke. The rusted sign above read, Ellaby, forgotten, but never gone. The platform groaned beneath my feet. Shapes loomed in the mist, figures. Dozens of them. Some in 1920s rail uniforms, some children with empty eyes, others too disfigured to describe. But all of them, watching me. And at the center stood my parents. Still in the clothes they wore the day they left me. But their skin sagged, waxen and gray. Their mouths hung slightly ajar. Emily, Mum said, her voice distorted like a warped cassette tape. You were supposed to stay. You were meant to belong, Dad added. His eyes rolled up, showing nothing but white. I shook my head. Why did you leave me? Why here? They stepped closer in perfect unison. We didn't leave you, Mum whispered. We returned you. And then I remembered the stuffed rabbit, the house that wasn't ours, the mirrors with reflections that weren't me. The black-suited man stepped out of the fog, briefcase in hand. Emily, you were never part of their world. You were misplaced. This is your origin. I don't believe you, I said, backing up. He didn't blink. Your parents found you on this platform 16 years ago. Alone. Screaming. And the train let them take you. But it wants you back. The shapes began to move. Slow, twitchy steps. A humming sound rose in the fog, like 1,000 voices chanting backwards. Behind me, another train appeared. Not the ghost train. A normal one. Lit. Warm. Clean. Inside, I saw a reflection of the life I'd known. My home, my bed, my friends, my laughter. A choice must be made, said the man. Return to your fiction, or stay and remember who you are. I turned to my parents. They were crying now. Silent tears, black like ink. You don't have to be alone, Mum begged. I looked toward the second train, comfort tugging at me, but the fog whispered, we remember you. And suddenly, I did too. Flashes, screams, a ritual, hands holding me down. A name repeated over and over that was never Emily. I wasn't born. I was made. In this place. I turned away from both the train and the ghosts. I stepped off the platform entirely. Into the dark woods. The black-suited man smiled faintly, and the platform began to dissolve behind me. With every step, my body felt lighter. Not in relief, but in loss. Like the lie was peeling off me. I wasn't escaping a nightmare. I was waking up into one. Somewhere far behind me, I heard the scream of the train one last time. It didn't call me back. It said goodbye.